Hi, and welcome to Matt Holman Talks Mental Health, the podcast where I have the opportunity to sit down and chat to amazing humans about their journey with mental health. For this episode, I'm so happy to introduce Stu Baker to the conversation. Welcome, Stu.
How are we doing? You all right?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, very good. So as I will always do, very brief introduction, how Stu and I know each other. And then Stu, I'll let you do a proper introduction to you, let people know who you really are. So Stu and I met a few years ago now, probably 3, maybe 4 years. I can't even remember. Who knows where we are in the world at the moment. During a charity event, a suicide prevention walk in London. We both stood on the middle of a bandstand, just talking about mental health and having a really good chat. He's a top bloke. You're going to find that out as you listen to him as well. We've also met up then after that event at another event, and it just seems like events is the future, right? That's where we seem to sort of catch up and meet up. But Stu's brilliant. He talks about mental health very openly. So Stu, I'm going to throw it over to you. Do your introduction. That's my sort of ramble into you, but over to you, buddy.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for having me, mate. So I'm Stu Baker, 40, and father of 3. I'm a trained personal trainer, but now a gym manager. So I used to be in the Navy for 9 years as an aircraft engineer, and then when I left, I retrained. I was paid money to be in a gym, so I thought I'd retrain as in the gym because I love my sport, and then I work in a gym full time now.
Brilliant. And obviously at the moment, as we record this, the gyms are currently closed. So unfortunately, you're not able to be in there. But fingers crossed, when the announcements are made, we hear some good news that they'll come back soon, soon as we can. Yeah, definitely. So brilliant, Stu. It's great to see you. And thank you for accepting the invitation to come on this. It's brilliant to have you. Question that I always ask. So we'll go straight in with the big one. So your journey with mental health. Please tell us your story, inspire us and share with us what you've been through, what you're going through and everything else in between, if you can, buddy.
Okay. So I don't know when it started or when, but I've been living with depression, I think, for the majority of my adult life. So when I reflect back at my 20s, I was self-harming, I was depressed, looking back. Don't know when it started. I think my childhood wasn't brilliant. I didn't have a very nice stepdad, but and the Navy made me take an anti-malaria tablet when I was 20, when I was in Africa. That's got some very bad reviews to it. It's been banned in like 16 different countries.
Okay.
So it might come from that, but I spent years trying to point my finger at who or what was to blame. But then I've sort of, after therapy and stuff, I've looked at it and thought, well, if someone is to blame, it won't change me as a person, so it doesn't really matter anymore. But it wasn't until I was about 29, I think, when I was really poorly. I played rugby to sort of a fairly middleish sort of standard, played for Navy and stuff. Yep. And it was my self-harm, really. So when I was playing rugby, I had the like little small man syndrome, scrum half. Used to go around and like tackle people really hard or start fights. But when I wasn't playing rugby, that's when I was actually self-harming in the bathroom and round and about.
Right.
It's weird, isn't it? Because now I reflect back on it and think, wow, Jesus, yeah, that's what. But at the time, it was just like sort of normal. So I snapped my knee when I was about 29, and I was playing social rugby, personal trainer. So at that point, I was like, well, it's really hard to teach someone to squat with one leg, and I was self-employed. So I decided to retire from rugby, and that's when my mental health hit rock bottom, really. I was going from job to job, couldn't get the money in, drinking far too much. So then I got dragged to the doctors by my wife at the time. And it was the first time I really spoke about it. So I sat in the doctor's chair. He said, "What's up?" And I just completely opened up about suicidal thoughts, thinking about suicidal ideations, self-harming, how low I was, stay in bed for like 3 days. And he turned around and says, "Well, to be honest, Mr. Baker, I think you need to cheer up."
Wow.
I was like, "Cheers, mate. Thanks."
Strong tips.
Never thought of that one.
not just to put in the disclaimer there, just to say that is not a tip that we're putting out there for anybody.
Yeah. So then I stood up and stormed off, to be honest, because I think that was it was fight or flight, and I had to leave because I was going to either say or do something that wasn't very nice. And then a couple of weeks passed, and I got taken to the next doctors, reluctantly, obviously. But then that was really good. So I got put on some tablets, and then got passed for some psychodynamic therapy.
Okay.
And that's where it started, really. But I still stayed silent. I was still within the rugby community, still lots of Navy mates, and because of the sort of society I came from, very male dominated,
Yep.
had to be the macho man. I never spoke about mental health or depression or suicidal thoughts because we were weak. I didn't like taking my tablets. And then, so I still stay silent, but I started blogging.
Okay.
And it wasn't for anybody to read, really. I don't even remember why or how I started. And it was not edited. It wasn't police checked, grammar checked or anything. It was just press enter and just flew out into the world somewhere. But it started getting a bit of momentum. I didn't think nothing of it. I just carried on. It was just a vent about like having to stay silent in this world and stuff like that. And while I was doing it, unfortunately, a friend of mine, friend of a family, took his own life.
Right.
And nobody knew. To the point of, in the inquest, he got put down as an accident, even though he jumped in front of a train.
Right.
It got put down as an accident because there was no evidence to suggest that he had mental ill health or he had suicidal thoughts or anything like that. It was just a bit strange. And that really shook me, to be fair. And then from that, I thought something needs to be done. Conversation needs to be had. So I think that's the first time that we met, actually, was that the family were going down to do the class walk in London. I rang up Kenny, the bloke who runs it, and said, I'm a PT, I do warm-ups for charities and stuff. Would you like me to do a warm-up for you? I'm coming down there anyway. He said, I've already had someone. I think Neil Laybourne did it, actually.
Right, yeah.
But he said, I'd just read your blog and I'm quite inspired. Would you like to talk? So Stu being Stu, I put the phone down and thought, I said yes, I put the phone down, what the am I going to talk about?
Yeah.
But within that time of me blogging, I came up with a concept called the mindset triangle. So I ended talking about that. And that's sort of the birth of the mindset triangle. So beforehand, my business was called Urban Fitness. Now it's called the Mindset Triangle. And it's all about, for the way for me to live, it works the same as a fire triangle. So for a fire to burn, you need 3 elements, as we all know, like from our year 7 science class. For me to have a healthier mindset, I need exercise, sleep, and healthy eating. And if I keep, I call it keep a triangle pointy. I'm in the best possible way to live with my depression or live with my mental ill health when I have it. And I used to reflect back on it as well. So on a Monday morning, I used to wake up and think that 10-stone duvet was on me. And I used to reflect back on it and think, well, no wonder, because you're up till 2 o'clock in the morning watching Anthony Joshua. You had 6 pints and a pizza. No wonder you're feeling crap. Now get out of bed and do the simple things to get moving. So I ended up going down to Clasp and do that talk. And then a couple of other people picked it up, and I've started doing public speaking, and I spoke about my depression, suicidal thoughts, and then I sort of let my triangle go a bit round, really. So Henriette and I started writing the book on the Mindset Triangle, and then I wasn't looking after myself, really. My job was doing really badly, personal training. I wasn't keeping hold of clients. I was drinking far too much. I was drinking more or less every night, a bottle of wine a night. Wasn't really exercising. I was going to the divorce at the time, but still staying in the marital home until things were sorted. And I ended up going to take my own life.
Right.
This was 3.5 years back. So after we spoke, to be fair,
yeah,
are we still together? Are we? Because I've got a still of you drinking a mug of coffee.
I'm back. You're
There
back.
we go. I've got you.
I don't know what happened there. Yeah, sorry. I could still hear you. I could hear you perfectly. Just the
brilliant.
visual. People love seeing me drink coffee, especially when I'm advertising. Sorry, such a
There's
difficult.
nothing in the cup, is there?
And it's a never-ending it's a bottomless cup. Sorry, we've just broken the total of the flow of that conversation, and you were talking about a very important moment. Sorry.
Yeah. No. So yeah, 3.5 years ago, I wasn't like I said, I wasn't looking after myself. I had an argument with the ex-wife, and then just put my boots on and walked. And I went to the local pub and had a pint, and then walked again. And it ended up being like sort of like a semi-pub crawl, but just on my own.
Right.
Turned the phone off, and then it just got to a point, and I laugh about it now and I talk about it, and it is serious. But at the time, I used to rate bridges out of 10 on to be the best bridge to take my own life. That was the suicidal ideations.
Yeah.
And like I'd say, I smile about it now, and I make a joke about it when I'm speaking to my friends or when I do public speaking.
Yep.
And I think that was my saving grace. That's what saved my life, because I walked away from the home, and I got to, I think, like the 4th or 5th pub. So about 9 or 10 pints into it, and I was feeling really shit. I got a text off the police saying they were looking for me, if I could text them back. I think I'd just text back no, or something like that. And then something clicked, and I just stormed out the pub. And I even left half a pint, which wasn't like me.
Right.
And then I walked back to my 10 out of 10, which was about 1.5 miles, 2 miles up the road that I'd walked from.
Right.
So as you can imagine, at the time, I was focused. I was really angry with myself. I was going to have a little bit of a meltdown, talking to myself, and my hands were in my pockets. And I just walked. I walked over roads without even looking left and right, like busy roads, and cars were beeping and screeching. I just didn't care. I just kept on walking to this 10 out of 10. And my saving grace was, I think, because I stomped at a fairly decent walking pace, this 10 out of 10, by the time I got there, I calmed down a little bit.
Right.
I think if that 10 out of 10 was around the corner, it might have been a different story.
Wow. Yep.
But by the time I got there, I was still contemplating, but don't get me wrong, I took everything out of my pockets, I laid them up on the bridge, and then I was stood there and I was working out timings of, I wonder how long it would take me to fall, I wonder how long that lorry would take to get from that tree to here. Right. And I was doing like sort of calculations in my brain. But at the time, when I was there, I sent a text. I don't remember sending this text. I don't know if it was in my subconscious or whatever made me do it. But then the ex-wife turned up, which made me really angry, and couldn't understand why she was there, how she got there, how does she know? And then I told her to go away, not very nicely. And then all I got then was a hand on my shoulder, and I turned around and the police was there, a big strapping ginger 6-foot copper, which turned me into the little scrum half that I knew, and I started windmilling and started fighting with this policeman. Then 2 others joined, and I turned into like the Tasmanian devil for about a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But as it was, I was really angry at the time, but they obviously doing well. they did good. They put me back in the police car and then took me to hospital, whereas was the start of 7 days in a acute mental health unit. I administered myself, because obviously if they sectioned me, I would have had to be there for 28 days. And being in the sort of mental health world as we were, knowing these things, I went in myself voluntary, knowing that I didn't want to be made to be there for 28 days.
Yeah.
But I knew I needed help. As like you read with a lot of suicide attempts and things like that, it's the reflection afterwards that really scares you and really upsets you. It's the thought that you're in that place, but you're not now. But you don't. I still, talking to you now, I don't remember it as the first person. I remember it as the third person.
Yeah.
So it's the person above. It's really weird. Like
you're
like
watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a movie as such.
Yeah.
I still think of it that now. So at the back then, I was still thinking the same. And the psychiatrists come in, the psychotherapists, and did an assessment, and then decided I'd go to this unit. So I was there for 7 days, and it was probably the best decision I made for those 7 days, really.
Right.
For me to be reviewed and not have alcohol for a week, which was massive. Don't get me wrong, I haven't been perfect since then. It hasn't been a click and I'm saved. I've had a couple of dodgy moments since then, and like a couple of I tried to jump out of a car at 70 mile an hour when Henriette was driving, which was again alcohol fueled. So I think from that, and then from that moment, that happened a couple of months afterwards, I think, after leaving the hospital. I still haven't addressed my I wouldn't say alcohol addiction, but my personality, if you know me, I'm either nothing or everything. Right. So if I put my head to something, I'm gonna do it. And that, unfortunately, that's what it's like at drinking as well. I don't have one glass of wine; I'll have like a bottle. And it's something clicked that night, and I was just drunk, and I don't remember it, but I remember putting Henriette in a very horrible, upsetting situation. And the next morning, I just said I won't drink anymore, and I had 18 months off.
Okay.
Which did me the world of good. It's crept in again a little bit now. I haven't drank again for another 5 weeks, I think, but over Christmas and lockdown and stuff like that. But yeah, big thing about learning. I don't think before that suicide. I don't want to call it a suicide attempt, because I didn't. It was. I went there to do something, but I didn't really attempt it, if you know what I mean. From that, I've learned a lot, and I wasn't really talking before then, but I talk a lot more now. And Henriette, we've been together for about 3 years, which is just after the attempts, really. But we're completely open about everything, really, and it works for me. Like I was, before we started recording, I was talking to you that this lockdown has been really hard, and I had 2 really tough weeks for me and for the family, really. For Henriette, it's not nice. Just horrible. And I think it's just the change of situation, the stuck in the house. Quite a lot of people are going through it, do you know what I mean? But I've had to reflect and go back on tablets. And sort therapy, or I'm making a call today, actually, to get put onto not a list. I'm very lucky to get private healthcare through work, so I can go through quite quickly. But it's just to talk about things, I think, reared up. But I'm in a position now where I don't think you can't sort anything out unless you accept it. And I've always said that from the off. As soon as you accept that something's not right, or I wouldn't say not right, but something, as soon as you accept that you're different and you need to work on something, the same as it is with physical health as well. As soon as you accept you've got maybe diabetes, you can combat it and you can live perfect life with it. Except that I have mental ill health, and I've got to work maybe a little bit harder than some people. But as long as I live to the triangle, and I've got the little to-do lists in place that I do, and I openly talk with Henriette, and we talk very openly, then I'm in a good place.
Brilliant. Well, what a wonderful story you've just explained, your reality, your world, your real life, which I just love that. And I thank you, Stu, for being so open and candid in the way that you've sort of explained, especially with the suicidal ideation, the thoughts and what was going on that night, that things sort of changed. I guess that was a big turning point for you in many ways. And talking about mental health in the way that you do is so important to these conversations, because it's about just realizing that we've all got things in our heads that we don't often share, and as you said, and I think that's the most valuable point for anybody to take away, it's about accepting the things that are there, and then acting on those acceptance moments. If
you woke up in the morning with a runny nose and a cough, you accept you've got a cold, you come downstairs, you have a lemon tea, you have a lemon sip or whatever, you get on with your life, and you tell your miss or your kids, God, I've got a bit of man flu, and you crack on. And so if you wake up feeling really bad, why do you have to come downstairs and be quiet and try and get on with your normal life? Do you know what I mean? And I always say in my talks as well, if You wouldn't wait. Like physical health and mental health work exactly the same.
Yep.
If one peaks, the other one will peak. If one dips, the other one will dip. They work alongside each other. You wouldn't wait to break every bone in your body before you go to A&E. So why do we have to wait until we're in crisis point to go and get help for our mental health?
Yeah.
And that's the flip that we need to change within society.
Yep.
And that's why there's a massive backlog and a waiting list at the moment for mental health services. It's because there's been nothing.
Yep.
Everyone thinks they're normal or there's nothing wrong with them, and then suddenly they're reading articles or listening to podcasts like by your good self,
yep.
and suddenly thinking, my God, there might be something that I need to see someone about. So
yep.
everyone's doing that, and now there's a massive backlog of poorly people.
So true, so true. And I think we're going to talk about your mindset triangle in a second, because I think that's a really useful model for people to sort of, because I always often, you know, when I'm doing these conversations, it's great for people to see if there's something that I might be able to utilize or use. And what is really important in these conversations of mental health is exactly what you've just described, which is we shouldn't wait until we get to crisis point, until we get to, and it's a challenge and it is difficult. I know that. And I'm not trying to say to people, it's easy to say, I'm struggling, I've got problems, I feel, you know, whatever's going on. But we have to try to engage in different ways to either prevent it or proactively support it sooner, right? I think that's what we're coming to, isn't it? In that, you know, looking after ourselves is such a critical part, because you're right, your physical and your mental health are connected. And when your physical health is good, your mental health should be better. And when it's, you know, the opposite, as you've said, and that's really important. So let's talk about the mindset triangle, if that's okay, Stuart, because I'm really fascinated by that as a concept, and I know about it, I've read it, and I think it's useful if you can just describe it a little bit more. I know you've mentioned the three sort of core elements, sort of in comparatives to fire, you know, the elements you need, but how do you see people using that?
It's really simple.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like for the exercise bit, and it's just three things that you need to live.
Right.
You need the three things to live. You need to be active, you need to sleep, and you need to eat. But it's just doing them in the right way, or implementing good habits into your life. And everything's in moderation. Do you know what I mean? I'm very against being a PT. I'm very against the diets that are out in society. That's very detrimental to your mental health. They're called food sins, for instance. So as soon as you have a sin, that's surely detrimental to your mental health.
Yep.
If you make someone take something away from the diet that they enjoy, that's detrimental to the mental health as well, because you're going to crave for it. But then as soon as you have it, you're going to feel guilty. Guilt is a pointless emotion because you can't do anything about it. Unless you're Marty McFly and go back in time to not have it, then there's no point, is there? So
no.
Don't get me wrong, this mindset triangle doesn't cure depression, doesn't cure mental ill health. It just puts you in the best possible way to be able to live with it.
Yep.
So for instance, exercise, we don't ask you to sign up for a marathon or go to the gym for an hour a day. It's just, like I said, good habits. So for instance, if you work in an office block, obviously everyone's working from home at the moment, but if you go shopping in the bull ring or whatever, use the stairs instead of the escalators. The stairs are at either end of the bull ring. So it puts an extra, couple of hundred steps on that day.
Mm-hmm.
We're a creature of habit. Humans are a creature of habit. So when you go shopping, hopefully you do go shopping. It's not click and collect or stuff, so you can actually pick the nice food. We all drive into Tesco's. You take the first turn in and you all go down to that door and try and find a space closest to the automatic doors and the trolleys. Why don't we park in the corner where there's loads of spaces and walk that extra 300 steps? And then if you've got a trolley with a dodgy wheel, it's a good core workout on the way back. So little things like that implements good habits, but it keeps you active. And we know that any activity you do releases endorphins, which is the happy drug. That the happy chemical in your brain that makes you feel better. So it's getting past it. The trouble is, there's so much out on social media at the moment, and so much has been out in magazines and the body that you're meant to look like and stuff. And you have to do 15 minutes of really hard workout. You don't. You just need to be active and do a little bit more than sitting down. Everybody knows, no matter who you are in the world, everybody knows 4 cans of beer and a pizza every night is probably bad for you. But everything's in moderation. That's like going on to the healthy eating. everything in moderation. Don't take anything out of your diet. If you like it and you enjoy eating it, have it, but don't have it every night.
Yeah.
Try and stay fresh. Drink as much as you can, 2 to 3 liters of water a day. We're 70% water anyway, our body. So we need to, and it keeps the brain functioning.
Keep it clean, yeah.
And this is right. As a personal trainer, I always get told, I haven't got time to do this. I haven't got time to do that. I haven't got time to eat healthy. I haven't got time to cook. But I don't know if there's a TED talk I listened to. I think it was last lockdown actually, and she was talking about time management. So in a week, you've got 168 hours. If you take away your 40-hour week, take away your 56 hours sleep, which is 8 hours a night, you're left with 72 disposable hours a week. Right, that's over 10 hours a day, disposable. And granted, I know that people have got kids and people work more than 40 hours, but that's a lot of time you've got disposable a day to do stuff. So with what we do with the mindset triangle and the cooking is very simple food. We made sure that when we wrote it, all the methods, there's only 3 or 4 points to every meal.
Right.
And we're not going down the road of like a chef with like, if you put an extra grain of salt in that dish, you're going to ruin it. You're not. It's just going to taste a little bit different.
Right. Yeah.
If you want extra chili, or you want, and we writ it in a way of like, you bung in this, you stir it, you bang it on the plate.
Right. Yeah.
Because it is that type of food, and but it's healthy.
Yeah.
And it is. I try and get through to people. It is so easy to cook.
Yeah.
And I get it. I know I get it a lot more than other people, but it's my therapy. I love being in the kitchen. But there's just the element of like music on and prepping food to then cook and eat. It tastes so much nicer than opening the box and whacking it in the oven.
Yeah.
And it's
absolutely.
But like, I keep having a go at society, and it is. It's all about convenience.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's time. It's all about how quick. Like for instance, people say they haven't got time to make their lunches for work, right? We've got a dish in the book called, in fact, we were going to call it the posh pot noodle, but for copyright reasons, we couldn't call it that.
Posh noodle in the pot.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, we called it something like that. But you get a glass mason jar. Yeah. You know, you can buy it from IKEA for like 90p or whatever.
Yeah.
At the bottom of that, you put in your fresh noodles, the straight to wok noodles. And then inside the fridge, everybody has got half a jar of some kind of curry paste or chili paste or pesto or something that will stay there till they see mold in it and they'll throw it away.
Yeah.
A dollop of that, and then finely chop any veg that you've got in the fridge. So I finely chop Brussels sprouts, bean sprouts ideally, anything you've got in there, bit of herbs on the top. And if you've got like on a Sunday, for instance, when we have a roast, there's always leftover chicken or leftover meat that's in the fridge. So a couple of slices of chicken in there, and then close the lid. Now, I've done a video for Instagram before, and I've managed to make that in the time the kettle is boiling.
Wow, yeah.
Because it's that quick.
Yeah, yeah.
You just
throw it in,
in the pot,
Yeah.
And all you've got to do is take to work in the bag, open the lid, pour in boiling water, close the lid, give it a shake, wait a minute, and you've got it.
Brilliant.
Now, that'll take far less time than you to walk to Boots to get a meal deal.
Yeah.
To walk back, and it's healthy and it's tasty, and you can make it whatever flavor you like.
That's brilliant.
And it's just little things like that we've tried to implement good habits and change. All you need to do is change a couple of little things in your daily life to be healthier. And this has got nothing to do with weight loss. This has got nothing to do with like
just healthy living.
Just healthier living.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Healthier living for a healthier mindset.
Amazing. This is just such a fascinating conversation. We're sort of run out of time. We're going to do a close, so don't worry. I'm not going to switch it off now, but we're running out of time. I do want to just say the mindset triangle. Where can we get it? Where can anybody listening pick that up?
If you go on TMT book.
TMT book.
Yeah.
Okay.
The mindset triangle book.co.uk or mindsettriangle.com.
.co.uk. Brilliant. Okay, and I'll put that link in the the notes to
Yeah,
this,
and
so
or
anybody.
just if you message us directly, we could send you a signed copy.
Oh, even better. Even
And
better.
yeah,
Fabulous. Yeah. So Stu, brilliant stuff. The co-author of that book is Henriette Lang, and Henriette actually did a podcast recording with me as well. So you've got two sides of the stories if anybody's interested to listen. So go back and have a listen to Henriette and Stu, because they are a couple, they are together, and I think it's fascinating. She had candles around there, Stu. So I was wondering if there was going to be some candles sort of going.
Oh mate, let's not even get started on that.
Oh, brilliant.
Henriette's Scandinavian, isn't she?
Yeah.
The whole house is like a Viking ship.
I love it. I love it. It's amazing. Listen, I just want to say a huge thank you, Stu. I really do genuinely appreciate you coming on to this and, recording this session with me. Any final passing thoughts from yourself to send out there to anybody?
Just talk.
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't have to talk. Communication. So when I go into schools, just time to communicate.
Yep.
Whether that's a text, I used to write a letter and then rip it up and throw it in the bin so no one read it. But it's still that element of expressing your thoughts. So it's just communicate in any way possible, because I know it's the old cliche and everyone says it. As soon as you say the first word, it just flows.
Yep.
It honestly does.
Yeah.
As soon as you write something or as soon as you say something, it flows. And accept.
Brilliant. And that's just a wonderful way to finish this conversation. As soon as I ask you that question, you flowed and you accept, and we go on, and that's how we tell these stories. So we're going to continue telling all these stories, these wonderful stories by amazing humans like Stu and everybody else that we've had the privilege to, well, I've had the privilege to sit down and chat with. If anybody is struggling, if you do need extra help, or you do want to reach out and talk to somebody, please do make sure that you take that forward. Don't just sit there with those intrusive thoughts. It can be really hard, but there are safe spaces to talk. Samaritans exist today to offer a safe space for you to have those conversations. Numbers 116-123. Or if you're not into talking and you want to text it to someone, text to Shout. Shout is a great organization where they just give you a little bit of extra support. You can text to 85258. That's the number if anybody has any issues. But there are many other organizations, too many to list and to read out and to memorize straight off the top of my head. But please do know there is always somebody there. Stu, it's been a pleasure, buddy. I wish you all the very best. You stay safe and take care.
Cheers, buddy.